Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the first Genshin video of a year where I remembered that about near the end of 2024, Watch Mojo came out with this interesting video ranking the top 20 characters in Genshin, and for like about a week or two, basically all you saw from Genshin content creators was them making their own top 20s. I was no exception. If you want to know how my top 20 looked at the time, this is how it looked, but this was like over a year ago at this point, so I figured, you know what, now we're in 2026, how about we update this tier list? You know, when this tier list came out, Mavika didn't even exist in the game, and now she most definitely does exist, and the game has changed quite a lot. You know, we had Nightfall mechanics, now we have lunar mechanics, so I figured now is about time to update the tier list. Recently we did a DPS ranking, then we did a support ranking, so now I figured why not combine those two, use what we learned from those two videos, and try make a top 20 of the best characters in Genshin Impact. Those videos were 5 stars only, now we're also going to be including 4 stars in this, just to make our definitive top 20. I say definitive, this is subjective, these are just my opinions. Everyone's, you know, feel free to let me know your top 5, your top 20, stuff like that. One thing I should mention is that this is more free-to-play focused. We're only looking at C0R0 limited 5 stars. But yeah, with that being said, let's just hop right into it. But real quick, if you want to put any characters in the upcoming Genshin versions, then I have the perfect thing for you, and that's today's sponsor, lootbot.gg. You can use Lootbot to top up on your favorite games like Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail and save up to 25% with special great value offers such as the 6,480 Genesis Crystals pack available for the first week of the new version, guaranteed character and rerun bundles, and the all-in-one bundle, which now applies on Xbox and PS5 as well. And with the recent Genshin anniversary, you can get double on your first top-ups. And with the release of the Miliasha Wonderland, you can also top up Chronal Nexus directly on Lootbot with the same trusted services as the Genesis Crystals. When I decided to buy one of my friends a Welcome Moon, all I had to do was enter in their UID and region, and I received the purchase in literally less than 10 seconds. Creators like DuckTV and Jello Impact are also collaborating with Lootbot, so they are trustworthy, and they also have thousands of positive reviews on Trustpilot. Also, new users can get 10% off, and returning users can get up to 8% off in the first week of the new version. So be sure to check out Lootbot with the link in the description. Back to the video. Well then, to start off our list, we have who else but Xiangling, who actually just misses out on our top 20. If I were to place Xiangling, I would rank her 21st. This might seem crazy, but actually I want to put C0R0 in the 20th place. I do feel like C0R0 maybe has less teams than Xiangling, but she's definitely much easier to use. You know, when you think of off-field power applicators, nowadays we also have Mavika and Doran just recently released. If it wasn't for Doran, I'd probably have put Xiangling above C0R0. I don't think Doran entirely replaces Xiangling, but I feel like now we have Mavika and Doran who, you know, you don't really need to build insane ER for like Xiangling. And honestly, I think C0R0, especially in the Flynn's team, has made a solid case. Also, we had the Hexray buffs as well, which I see giving her possibly more use cases. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put C0R0 in the 20th place, just ahead of Xiangling, which I know some Xiangling truthers are going to find absolutely sacrificial. To be honest, I never even was a huge fan of Xiangling, so yeah. Now, next up we have a character who I would have rated so much higher in the past, but nowadays we just have so many good off-field Hydro characters. And with the HP, with like damage requirements going up and up, as well as the fact that he doesn't contribute to Nightfall and stuff, I'm actually going to go ahead and put Xingqiu in the 19th place. Utility-wise, he is still a great character. You know, double Hydro is still good, although in a lot of double Hydro teams, I find that Yelan as well as Furina works better. If you're about Hydro options in Nefer teams or Flynn's teams, then, you know, you would rather go for Aino. So yeah, when it comes to his role in top teams, I just feel like Xingqiu's fallen off a bit. I don't think he's best for characters like Chaska, Kanish, Mualani, Skirk. He isn't the best for either Nuvalat, stuff like that. Even Hu Tao, I'd rather use Yelan plus Furina plus either Shalonen or Shenyun. So yeah, actually, Xingqiu I'm going to go ahead and have the rank in 19th, which obviously for a day 1 4-star is still very, very good, who hasn't even received any buffs. Going on for another 4-star, I'm actually going to go ahead and grab a couple of which came out quite a bit later, but that's going to go ahead and be Chevreuse. You know, she made Overload into a much, much better reaction. Overload teams are some of the strongest in the game right now. Then again, a lot of teams, Overload isn't their premium option. For example, for Arlecchino, for Mavwika, overall is very good, although maybe you can find better better results if you use someone like Sitlali. So although she's very good and also very advisable for free-to-plays, also I do want to note that obviously C6 Chevrolet isn't necessary. I have found very good results with Chevrolet between C2 and C5. So although C6 Chevrolet is a very nice upgrade, I definitely think that even without C6, she is still a pretty damn good unit. Maybe you could put an argument for her being lower down in the tier list, but I think just because of how prominent Overload is in the meta right now, I feel like she ends up having slightly more use cases than Xingqiu and Sucrose. So I will actually go ahead and put Chevrolet in the 17th spot, 18th spot rather. But, you know, if you want to put her slightly lower and move either of these two up, I also wouldn't judge you, that's perfectly fine. Next up, we actually have our next 5-star, who also in my previous tier list rated much higher. That's actually going to go ahead and be Yelan. Like I said, for off-field Hydro Appliers, Yelan and Xingqiu, they used to be like the undeniable ones. Now, Farina, of course, came out. She also has really good buffing capabilities, but you could always use Farina alongside one of these two. But then, once again, it's kind of that issue where for Nefer and Flint, you don't really want Yelan. Now, Yelan does actually work with Skirk, which is saving her a bit here. The problem is that Skirk also could use Shenhe as well, so you know, she's not undeniable in Skirk teams either. You definitely do have other alternatives, although I do still think that 17 is a fair spot. Maybe Yelan could even rank even higher. I will go ahead and revisit the list once I complete it, so you know, maybe I'll swap a few things around, but for the time being, I will go ahead and put Yelan in the spot. And finally, rounding out our 16 to 20 tier, I'm gonna go ahead and put someone who used to be the #1 character in the game by a lot of people's measures in 1.6. I'd say that probably changed around the time of, I want to say, probably Fontaine, where Nivlet started being considered the best character. Then you had the debate whether you thought Nivlet or Farina was the best character. But then, you know, Kaza was always somewhere then in their top rankings. And then I think once Shalonen released, then we had Mavwika, then we had Sitlali. That's when Kaza started really falling off. But he stayed up on the top for many, many years. And he's still very, very solid. You know, the elemental resistance shred, elemental damage bonus, stuff like that. Still very useful. Swell can also just be pretty useful. Grouping as well. Still think he's the best and most consistent grouper in the entire game. So I definitely do still think there is a choice to use Kazuha. When he works, he feels very, very good. Even against single target bosses where, you know, he can't group them up, his utility is still pretty useful. But there are just other characters and more niche supports who end up being able to buff your carries even more. Next up, we have the 15th slot. I would have actually ranked her in the 16 to 20, but after the Hexray buffs, I am also going to be putting Official in the top 15 spot, just about going to put her in 15. Overload teams alongside, for example, Chevrolet and Duran just make for really, really good team archetypes, basically. Some might say a wheelchair comp. I think for characters like Arlecchino or Mavwika, you can't really call that a wheelchair comp. But then if you want to use it for someone like, I don't know, maybe Razor, then I'd probably agree with you that it's a bit more of a wheelchair comp. But either way, it's just a very strong team core. To be fair, just Doran plus Fischl as well is just a very strong team core. Then you can round it out with either Bennett or Chevrolet. Or neither. Maybe there's a more useful support for that DPS, but yeah, either way, Fischl is very, very strong, especially at C6. The Electro application, she has basically been the best or the second best Electro applicator, basically always. Well, off-field applicator. You know, you can argue Raiden in her prime. Fischl and Yai used to be on considered to be on similar levels, but then the Fischl just worked much better with future releases. So yeah, I will go ahead and put Fischl in the 15th slot. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and skip over to the future quite a bit. And once again, we're going for actually our first Nightline character on the list. This is gonna go ahead and be Shalonen. Shalonen was in my previous top 5, but I think this just goes to show how much the game has shifted. First of all, how many new insanely strong supports we're getting. Second of all, how the increase in lunar reactions has made lunar supports more important. And also how the game has trended towards more niche supports as opposed to general supports like Kaza and Shalonen. Nowadays we have more like Sitlali, Lama, and Nefer. So Shalonen has suffered a bit, but I still think she is a top unit in the game. I will go ahead and put her in my top 14. When it comes to our 13th slot, this one shocked me when I was thinking where to place him. But honestly, I was originally going to put him in, considering putting him in just about in the top 5, then I realized maybe top 10 would be a bit better. But then when I thought about the changes to the game, Nightfall mechanics, lunar reactions, more niche supports, just how insane some certain hyper carry damage is, then I think Neuvillette, this is where I'm going to go ahead and place Neuvillette. Now, I will say, if you're a free-to-play player and you want to pull a DPS, you cannot go wrong with Neuvillette. He has so many strong teams. You have the Escoffier Skirk team. The Escoffier Skirk team exists as well. You also have the Escoffier Citlali team as well. For hyper carry, you have Kaza Shalonen as well. Pyro teams with Doran or Mavika. You have so many options if you're playing Neuvillette teams. Hyper Bloom as well, now that Lam was released as well. There's so much you can do with Neuvillette that honestly I do still think that he is one of the top pulls in the game. But in terms of strength wise, I think I'm gonna go ahead and rank him 13th. For DPSs, I'd still probably put him just about top 5, but one thing you'll realize about this list compared to the previous top 20 is that there are so many more supports in the list now, as opposed to DPSs. You know, we had characters like Hu Tao back then, making the list, whereas now someone like Neuvillette is only making the 13th slot, whereas previously he was either top 1 or top 2 when he released. But that being said, I still think Neuvillette is an incredible DPS. Honestly, literally any character from this tier onwards are just all great pulls, even in the top 20. All of these characters are great pulls. You can't go wrong with them, especially from top 15 onwards. So yeah, I just want to say that I love Neuvillette. He is still one of my favorite characters in the entire game, but I'm gonna go ahead and have to put him here. And next up, I was originally going to also place this character higher, but I'm actually just going to go ahead and put her in the number 12 spot. Now, when it comes to DPS strength, Versa is a fair bit stronger than Neuvillette. He also had her Doran team release, and the Doran team is very strong. I don't want to get that twisted. This will once again come down to Nod Crime mechanics and lunar reactions. There are some enemies you literally just cannot brute force with Veressa at C0R0 if you're using a full C0R0 5-star team, even with C6 Chevrolet, even with C6 Ayansan. Just the Spiral Abyss design recently, as well as Stygian Onslaught, has just been really BS, I'd say, and making a DPS even as strong as Veressa struggle a bit more in the current metagame. In terms of strength, once again, one of the strongest units in the entire game. Also, once again, like I said, when DPS-wise, I'd say Neuvillette, Veressa are both top 5 or 6. DPS is definitely top 6, at least top 5. So, yeah, I will go ahead and put Veressa in the number 12 spot. Some will definitely argue that she should be in the number 10. But when you see my rationale around the top 10, I think you'll understand. Because I am looking right now heavily at the current state of Endgame. I say state of Endgame, I'd say the current mess that Endgame is. So, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and put Skirk in the number 13 slot. In the number 12 slot. When it comes to our number 11 slot, rounding out this list, I'm going to go ahead and put a character who I think in the future will be top 10, if not maybe top 5. But I'm going to go ahead and put Doran here, who, of course, I'd say, I wouldn't say he killed Changling, but he definitely dethroned Changling out of the top 20. I'd say he's one of the more comfortable pyro players as well. He makes existing teams like Veressa very strong right now. He also makes other DPSs, he's a solid option for other DPS teams, and then also for some weaker DPSs, he's great. Like I said, his comp with Fischl and himself is very strong, but I think where his strength will lie will be when the likes of Varka, Nicole, Alice release. I think that's when Doran will truly shine. Then we'll see just how strong everyone's favorite dragon is. Oh, well, maybe he's not your favorite dragon. Actually, I'd say Neuvillette might have to be my favorite dragon. But yeah, Doran definitely very high on him right now. But I do think that he will only continue to increase in the future. But I don't want to, because if we were talking like Columbina making Doran stronger, then I could place him maybe a bit higher, but I don't think Columbina's going to have that great of an effect on Doran, so I'm going to go ahead and keep him just outside the top 10 before the likes of Varka. I was going to say Varka Flint. No, they had so much time together in the Archon Quest, I started grouping them together. No, I'll keep him outside the top 10 until the likes of Varka, Nicole, Alice release, stuff like that. And then we'll see where we rank him in the future. But going ahead and cracking into the top 10 is going to be the real Pyro Archon, and that is Bennett himself. Well, I say real Pyro Archon, the real Pyro Archon is going to rank higher than him. But either way, Still, we are gonna go ahead and put Bennett in the top 10. I was originally gonna put him in the top 15. I was gonna put Doran above him. I was thinking of putting Varessa above him as well. But then I figured, you know what, Bennett has just been around for so long. Also, he's good for units like Varessa. I wouldn't say he's best in slot for Varessa, but he's a good option. For Mavuika, he's also a very good option for the likes of Arlecchino as well. I will say, he is having less use cases nowadays. For example, Skark doesn't really need him. Also, Flynn's and Nefer don't really want him. We'll have to see in the future when the other DPSs come out. Will Bennett be replaced? Will someone like Nicole be the brand new Bennett? We'll have to go ahead and wait and see. But I think now we're going to go ahead and put Bennett in the top 10. I will say I think it's very possible that he'll fall out of the top 10. So, you know, we might as well go ahead and put him in the top 10 perhaps one final time. Or maybe not. Or maybe with future character releases, he'll continue getting better and better. We'll have to wait and see. We thought Bennett was going to die a long time ago, but he's still here in the top 10. So, yeah, gonna go ahead and put Bennett in the top 10. Next up, I'm actually going to go ahead and put Escoffier, who did revive quite a few cryo characters. Ayaka as well as Risley are pretty decent nowadays thanks to Escoffier, but then obviously her main use case is Skark, who I'm just going to go ahead and slot right alongside her as well. Skark, top 3 DPS in the game, no doubt. Although for free-to-players, I will say she's not as accessible, so, you know, that's why I probably... You know, I don't want to rank her too high. Also, once again, lunar mechanics do exist, so I think that is keeping Skark from being any higher for me. You know, if she could interact with the lunar mechanics thanks to Abyssal Powers or something, then I would definitely put her higher. But no, for the time being, I'm just gonna go ahead and put her in our number 8 slot, which obviously still very respectable. But you know, like I said, DPS wise, pure strength wise, top 3. When it comes to free to play DPSs, top 5. But when it comes to strength, when we include other supports as well, then I think I'm going to go ahead and have to slot her in the number 8 slot. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and put Llama in. Llama is obviously, this is where we start seeing the trend of lunar characters kind of dominating the top ends of the list alongside some previous very strong supports. So yeah, Llama will be our first character which can deal in lunar reactions and meet the criteria for some of the new bosses, where if you don't have lunar reactions, you are going to take 2 minutes to kill him, just because it's really bad design, but oh well, what can we do? That's the state of the game which we're in right now. So that's the state of the game we are going to be evaluating on right now. You know, if this changes in the future, then characters like Skark, Varessa will go up, whereas Llama and Nefa maybe will go down. Let's not forget though that Columbina is also releasing, so it's very likely that we will see Llama only getting better and better. So yeah, I definitely feel like right now Llama does deserve her number 7 spot, just outside the top 5. Also, you know, first of all, Nefer teams insanely strong with Llama, although I will say the lack of sustain in those teams can be rather frustrating at times, so quality of life could be a bit better. If she had base kit healing, then I'd go ahead and put her in the number 6 slot, maybe even number 5 if she had base kit healing, to be honest. Oh my, if you could make Llama work with Farina and stuff like that, oh my god, she would be an absolutely insane unit in certain teams, including Al-Haytham teams, stuff like that. But now, you know, you can play her with, like I said, Al-Haytham, you can play her with Nivelette, like I previously mentioned, but Nilo as well in AoE, very strong, especially against that stupid crab mushroom boss, whatever you want to call it. It's such a horrible boss, one of the worst ones Genshin has ever made. Llama will help you a lot with it. And yeah, like I said, lunar reactions as well, so she's very important. But I do think that I'm going to go ahead and put Enefa just above her. Honestly, I think for me, it's Enefa. She has less teams where she's best in slotting. You know, Llama is best in slot in Nilo as well as Nefer teams. Enefa is only right now really best in slot in Flynn's teams. But at the same time, I do feel like she is, I don't want to say a more complete unit, but at the same time, you know, the shield she gives is just very useful, and then she also enables Lunar Charge as well, which can be very useful. So yeah, that's why I think I would just about put Nefer above Llama. Her personal damage is decent, her team contribution is very solid as well, and her utility in terms of the quality of life with the shield is also very nice. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and put Nefer in the number 6 slot. But now, cracking into the top 5, and we're going to take a slight break with the next two from lunar reactions. I'm going to go ahead and put Sitlali here. Sitlali enables some of the strongest DPSs in the entire game. She can be used in Skirk, although she's definitely, I wouldn't say she's best in slot in Skirk teams, but then you can also use her in Arlecchino teams. Arlecchino Melt, very strong. Also, but then obviously her main use case is Mavuika. Citlali alone will make Mavuika by far the strongest DPS in the game. Will this change when Columbina releases? Very possible. I definitely think that when Columbina releases, she'll end up being top 5 as well, and then Citlali will end up going down. As of the time of recordings, Columbina's pre-release servers have just released for content creators. Obviously, I'm not part of the content creator program, but you know, a lot of people saying Columbina pretty damn strong, also very good for the likes of Flint and Nefer. So I definitely do think that we could see Citlali going down in the future, but for the time being, I'm gonna go ahead and put her in the number 5 slot, just about. Like I said, enables basically the strongest DPS in the entire game. You know, you could say that Bennett has more use cases than her. Bennett should be ranked higher, yes, but at the same time, Mavuika without Bennett, swapping him for someone like Iansan or Shalonen, and then the difference between that team and a team which doesn't have Citlali is pretty damn big. So yeah, Citlali is going to go ahead and have to take the number 5 slot. Next up, we have who I consider the best general support in the entire game. Although we have shifted away from general supports, I mean, look where our other general support, our second best general support is ranked. It's in the number 14 slot, whereas Farina is in the number 4 slot. She's just so strong, personal damage-wise, application-wise, buffing-wise. She's just so good. Best in slot in Skirk teams, best in slot in Novelet teams. Honestly, usable in Flint's teams if you want to use Aino on the first half, just because of how her skill cooldowns work. So yeah, I actually really like, or skill uptime works, rather I should say. So yeah, Farina, just very strong unit for basically every single character in the game. Even some of the DPSs outside of this is very usable for Chaska. Some people used to use her for Molani when she first released, not very usable for Kinich. When it comes to other DPSs as well, Risley, Ayaka, so strong with them. Hu Tao, very good with as well. So yeah, Farina, for me, undeniable top 5 character. Once again, could that fall down when Columbina releases? Especially when we see how strong Lunar reactions are right now and how necessary they are for current endgame content. Yes, but still, for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and put her in the number 4 spot. I definitely do think it is very well deserved. And now we are cracking into our top 3, where we have 3 DPS characters back to back to back. Now, for my number 3 slot, I was really torn on this, but I'm going to go ahead and put Nefer in the number 3 slot. The reason being, and then obviously Flins is going to go ahead and take the number 2 slot. The reason why I put Flins over Nefer is that I just feel like his team feels more complete right now. I'd also say it's a bit more free-to-play friendly. You know, Nefer, outside of Lauma, her other best in slot teammates, you know, would be probably Aino, and then a lot of people use Nahida alongside her, EM, Share, stuff like that. And Nahida is definitely a very good option, but then the only sustain you have on that team is basically Prototype Amber from Nahida. Otherwise, you're facing on big DPS losses, which requires you to dodge a bit more. The more you dodge, the less time you have to, you know, output your rotation, which leads to a DPS loss. And then if you want to swap out someone like Nahida for a sustainer, then you're gonna also have a DPS loss. So yeah, whereas Flins, you know, you just put up an Nefer shield and you just go ahead, spam EQ, normal attacks, EQ, and you just absolutely nuke everything down. When Columbina releases, maybe Nefer will be stronger for, maybe Columbina will be stronger for Nefer than she is for Flins. Maybe Nefer will go up, maybe she'll make Nefer teams feel better to play, but I definitely feel like strength-wise, they are very, very similar, if not basically the same, whilst I do think that Flins has a bit more quality of life. Also, with the Hexray buffs, if you know, you can, if in the future you could go ahead and play Columbina, Fischl, Sucrose, that will have sustain issues similar to Nefer, but it will still feel pretty good to play. Or you could forget about the Hexray buffs and then, you know, put in someone like Lanyan as well, and then also run Fischl if you don't have a Nefer. So, you know, I feel like Flins without a Nefer will be better than Nefer without Llama when Columbina releases. But, you know, this is just slight speculation. I've weighed our top 3. Whatever way you put them, for me, it doesn't matter. Personally, I need to put someone in second and I need to put someone in third. And personally, I just put Flins there. But maybe I'm biased because Flins is one of my 3 favorite characters in the entire game, alongside Risley and Zhongli. So, you know, maybe I'm biased, but I will go ahead and put Flins in the number 2 spot, which leaves us in the number 1 slot, even though she is not a lunar DPS movie, because damage is just absolutely insane. Now, is it possible that Nefer and Flins will overtake her also with the upcoming Z-Buy as well? Then maybe Mavuika will be dethroned, but for the time being, based on the current DPS numbers that we have in-game right now, then Mavuika is just undeniable. Even at C0R0, slap on a Citlali on her team, and you are nuking everything. Just pair it with like Bennett Shalonen or Iansan Bennett or Iansan Shalonen. Whatever way you do it, she's just going to go ahead and absolutely destroy everything. Normally on at least one side of the abyss she'll be good. In AoE, her damage is insane. In single target, her damage, you know, she has undeniable and I'd say unparalleled nuke potential. So yeah, for me, Mavika, even though she's not my favorite character in the game, I still quite like playing Mavika. Whilst I do think that her motorcycle is a bit goofy, the damage it does is absolutely undeniable. It does hit like an absolute truck. So, even though, honestly, I prefer playing Novelette to Mavika, her strength is just, literally, you can just brute force most things in the game with even just a C0R0 Mavika. So, yeah, as long as you have Citlali, slap on Citlali, this nukes everything. Even without Citlali, overload teams, or teams where you just stack buffers like Jansan, Bennett, and Shalonen, she'll still do a very good job. So yeah, I will go ahead and say Mavika is the #1 DPS in the game right now. But yeah, that's gonna be it for my personal Genshin top 20 DPS ranking. Let me know, what do you really disagree with? What would be your personal top 5s, top 10s, even top 20s? Who do you think I missed out on? Who do you think I was too kind to? Who do you think I was too harsh on? The one swap I could maybe see, if we were playing a bit more free-to-play in mind, I could maybe see this being an option. If you want to consider Escoffier and Skirk to be a bit more premium, then, I think this is also valid. But I think, personally, for the time being, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Like I said, either way you do it, I wouldn't really want to go ahead and disagree with anyone. Just to compare it to our old tier list one more time, I mean, look, Kazuha ranked number 2, this is our top 5. Nahida didn't even make the list. Alakino didn't make the list just because of how many DPSs we have right now. Look, one thing trended here is that there is a lot more DPS characters on this list compared to this list. This one has a lot more supports. Also, we have the honorable mentions here. Honestly, I think for the time, this was a pretty damn good list, considering the fact that, I think we were in version 5.1 of Natlan, maybe 5.2. Actually, no, 5.1, because I don't think Chaska was out yet. Because I don't see her on the list. I definitely would have put Chaska on the list. So yeah, this would be 5.1 when Shalonen released. And this is our list now. Shalonen, top 5 character in the 11 to 15 range. Same with Novelette. Basically, the only character who survived here is Farina, just because she continued to get characters she's really good for. So yeah, that's it for my list. Like I said, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. With that being said, see ya.